name is Stephen Falwell. I'm with Stedman Hill Consulting, and we're here today to discuss a service plan for the town of Brattleboro and the bus service here. And I should say we have a very brief presentation. It's only 5 or 6 slides that we'll go through. And we may do it all again at 1:30 because there was some television announcements that the meeting started at 1:30, so there may be another whole group who comes in at that point. At this point, I want to introduce the people sitting at the table here, if you don't know them, and then I'll ask everyone to just introduce who they are, why they're here, and what they're interested in. So, as you can see, this project here is a cooperative effort of SEVT and Current, which operates the service here, the Vermont Agency of Transportation, which is not represented here. They're going to be here at the meeting tonight, and myself at Stedman Hill Consulting. This is Randy Shoemaker. Go ahead.
Randy Shoemaker from Southeast Vermont Transit, the mover in the Current.
I'm Rebecca Gagnon. I'm the general manager of the Current.
And if we can just go row by row, and you can just say just who you are and why you're here and what you're interested in. So,
I'm Peter Paggi with the Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust, and we're looking at expanded services for our residents around town.
I'm Elizabeth Kroll. I'm a retired teacher and a resident here in Brattleboro. I do co-own a car, but I do a lot by public transport, and I would like to see that increased, the use increased in town as a progressive issue.
Karen Ortlieb, I live in Brattleboro. I'm just a rider. I would like to see some changes. Make it less confusing, and just general input, and hopefully make a better system.
right.
I'm Jane Moore. I'm a rider also. Live over at Red Clover Commons at the southern end of town. And I've been using your service for senior lunches and medical appointments and things ever since you took it over, because I was using the taxi before then. I don't have a car. I wouldn't be able to get to any of these places without it. But I think that you backtrack so often with the ways that you go that your computer needs to know what the mileage is between places in order to get to all of them at the right time.
Okay.
My name is Isabel Ludig. I live in West Brattleboro, and I think the main problem when I also talked to other passengers was very poor connections between the 3 bus lines. And personally, I would like the old bus schedule reinstated that we had when the town of Brattleboro ran the bus. I'm sure Rebecca remembers it. Some people said she designed it. In any case, I don't know who designed it, but I thought it was an excellent schedule. And as far as the new locations where we are going now, Guilford and Hinsdale, I would suggest to use small shuttle buses like we have for medical rides, and just do a shuttle between the transportation center in Hinsdale or transportation center and Guilford, and then we could have the old Brattleboro bus schedule again. That would be definitely my preference because it has excellent connections. It has later hours. It has later hours on Saturday also. Well, like I said, Rebecca will know, what I mean. I don't have it in my head anymore. But I thought when I first moved to Brattleboro in 2009, that was an excellent bus schedule.
Okay. Thank you. And I should say, this is not your only chance to speak. We're going to present a little information. There'll be lots of time for more comments, so don't feel like this is your only chance to get all your thoughts out. So,
I'm Mike Martin, and I live in West B, and I have a issue with, like, if I'm at Hannaford, and, it's like 2:10, and the bus has already come by. It doesn't, you have too many dots on your schedule. It should have like a little asterisk, like a blue dot, that the Bellas Falls represents the Bellas Falls bus is coming down. That way, I'm looking and I say, oh, I don't know what's going on. I usually call the Current and ask them, how do I catch the bus? I'm at this stop, and basically, I would like to get a, like a job, but and I've heard it from other people that if the bus ran later at night, I mean, it doesn't have to be every schedule, but, the ones that kind of like, it might go from Hannaford to, to Morningside, and they might do and go to Price Chopper, and then go to West B, so people can kind of like get around to, the later hour jobs, and basically, it's like Sunday, I got a bicycle, but still, I don't like to ride a bike, I got medical issues, and yet, there's nothing on Sunday, and, if it was limited, or it was just like, and we knew that, running from certain hours, that would be great, I would get on the bus on Sunday, because I missed a few of the community services in Brattleboro in the afternoon, and, but the dots and stuff, but mainly, your scheduling, is like, this is nothing. I'm impressed with all that's going on. It's just the hours and the dots and the mover. That's a whole different issue. That's like, you wave that, I'm like, get over here. Like, they don't want to stop. Like, and I don't go to Wilmington because I used to drive, and I know Wilmington, but no, I would love to have some changes done.
Great, thank you. Yeah, background?
I'm Meg Barr, and I work for Voc Rehab for the state of Vermont, and I'm just here to see how this could affect my consumers who use the public transportation system to find work.
I'm Jeff Lewis, the director of the New England Center for Circus Arts. We have a new facility on Putney Road. We have a large number of students, both full-time and part-time students, as well as faculty who would benefit by a regular bus schedule to get to and from our facility.
Is that year-round?
Principally, at the highest volume is September to early June. So school schedule for our school program, for our professional program. We can use summers, but if we had to narrow it, that's what we need.
I'm Erica Roper. I'm the transportation planner at the Wyndham Regional Commission. We're also providing support on the study.
Wendy Harrison. I'm on the governing board of Southeast Vermont Transit, and never say just a rider, because thank you so much for being here, and I'm interested in finding out from riders and from businesses and providers just how we can make the service more responsive to what you need, so it'll be efficient and thanks.
I'm Peter Elwell. I'm the town manager here in Brattleboro, and likewise, I'm looking forward to hearing the comments from people in the community and working together with the bus officials to see how we can improve service for everyone here in Brattleboro.
And I'm Shyla Foss. I work with the Vermont Department of Health, and I'm just here to make sure that our participants in the WIC program, or in relation to chronic disease as well, that people have access to their medical home, access to foods, and just and our WIC participants are able to get over and have access to our clinic as well.
What was your name again? I didn't hear it.
Shyla Foss.
And what's your company?
Vermont Department of Health.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, so like I said, we have a very short presentation. You have it in front of you. It's only 6 slides or so. And if you have questions along the way, we can try to answer them, but then one of the ending slides is a bunch of questions for you, that sort of input we're looking for today, and to hear your opinions beyond what you've said already. And Rebecca's here taking careful notes, and it's also on television, so it'll be recorded that way as well. So without further ado, the goals of this study are to make service work better for the people of Brattleboro. We're trying to make the system more convenient for people to serve more of your trips, to make it less confusing. We've certainly heard that with regard to the schedule, that it's confusing, and to make the system easier to use. We want to also improve the performance of the system. We want more riders overall. There are certain parts of the system now that are poorly used, that don't generate much ridership. We want to take those out and redistribute those resources. And overall, to make the best use of limited resources. And it's important, this is a theme you're going to hear, in the short term, the resources are limited. We have about 9,000 hours of service to work with, maybe a little less. That might sound like a lot, but over a whole year, you divide that by 300 days, that's 28 hours a day. You divide that by 3 routes, that's 9 hours per route. And that's not even 6 to 6, if you want to think about that. So that's the pot of resources we're working with, and we want to make sure to make the best use of those resources. Over the summer and starting in the spring, we've done a lot of data gathering. We did comprehensive counts in May on every trip that's operated and at every stop, and we did it 2 or 3 times. The drivers had clipboards. You may have noticed them doing that back in May. And so we got good counts of where people are currently using the system by trip and by stop. And then over the summer, we did a whole range of surveys. We handed out survey forms on the buses, and we have over 90 responses from bus riders. We talked to employers in the area about what their needs were. The current talk to the drivers, and those of you who are riders probably know all the drivers personally, and they have lots of information, lots of good ideas. They know the routes better than anyone and where people need to go. Institutional partners such as schools, colleges, other employers and institutions in the area that generate ridership. There was a survey of the general public, including people who don't currently ride the bus, and we got over 50 responses to that. And as well as talking to local officials, such as the town manager, and trying to figure out what the needs are from the perspective of the town. So, in all that data collection, we heard lots of things. A couple of things we want to highlight is that service needs to be more frequent. People tend to wait. We heard also about connections not being strong enough. We heard about later service in the evening, and we certainly heard about a less confusing schedule. The fact that you might have 3 different routes going to any one location, and it's hard to figure out which bus to ride. I want to talk about what are the short-term possibilities now, because as I said a couple of minutes ago, the resources are limited. Unfortunately, there's no additional funding available in the short term to increase service significantly. That means even though there are lots of people who want to get to places like Keene, like Greenfield, like Newfane, like Townsend, all those places we've heard people want to get there, there is no money to do that in the short term. There's going to be no major expansion of service hours. Things can be shifted around. We might be able to get some later service by reducing service at other times of the day. And there's also likely no Sunday service, even though that's something that people want. That's something that the budget cannot afford at this point. So in the past, people have said, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this. And then it doesn't happen because there's no funding available and people get disappointed. So we just want to make sure you understand at the outset there's no significant new funding coming in the short term. And so we can't promise that we're going to do any of those kinds of things. The system can be made more efficient and more convenient than it currently is, and those are our primary goals. And there will be increases in some areas, but this may come at the expense of other areas that have poor ridership. So I mentioned that before. If there's a segment that doesn't generate a whole lot, we found very few riders going to Guilford. And so there's a decent amount of service on the Blue Line to Guilford, but there's not a lot of riders out there. So it may be, I'm not saying that we've done the plan, but that may be one place where we can shift resources out to increase service where there are more riders and make service more convenient in other places. So this slide has a bunch of questions, and I'm going to go through them now and then talk about the next steps, and then we'll come back to it because this will generate the discussion. But the questions we asked, and some of these questions are the same as what we had on the surveys. What is important to preserve in the existing system? What would you like to change about the system? What are the most important connections to make within Brattleboro? How important are connections to Putney and Bellows Falls, where we have existing service on Route 53? And what other comments do you have? So I'm going to come back to these in a minute. But just to talk about the next steps in the process and how it's going to play out, after this public meeting, after we finish all the data collection, we're going to develop a service plan. It's probably going to be a simpler system with 2 routes similar to the service that Rebecca ran years ago when it was called B-Line. We'll aim for a more regular schedule with more consistent service. Then that plan, after we develop it and talk at the staff level, will be presented to the public for comments later in the fall, probably end of September, sometime in October. We haven't scheduled a date yet. And then once it's gone through that public process, then it would get implemented once all the detailed planning is done for the schedule. So that's the whole presentation. I want to go back now to the input slide, and you can think about these questions. I know some of you have already expressed your most important concerns, but we want to address these questions and hear everything you have to say about what would you like to preserve, what would you like to change, connections you want to make, the connections to Putney and Bellows Falls, and any other comments you have on the service. So we have, not to put you on the spot right as you got here, but when we started the meeting, everyone introduced themselves. And so we'll give you a chance to introduce yourself and why you're here and what your thoughts are.
Sharon Couturier, and I live in Brattleboro. And I'm interested in how the transit system works and how me, my neighbors, and friends might use it.
Thanks. Did you pick up a copy of the presentation?
I did not.
I'll grab one.
I'm really sorry. I thought you said
That's,
we made a mistake.
It was advertised in some areas at 1:30, so it's not your fault at all.
So you're early. You're 1:30.
I was hoping to be.
Yeah, we may, if there are a bunch more people coming at 1:30, we may do the presentation again. It's only 5 slides. So anyway, we'll open the floor at this point for any questions and comments that people have. Yeah, Isabel.
Yeah, I have a question about transfer tickets. Again, in the old system, drivers used to honor a transfer ticket during the whole day. So obviously now you can only transfer at the transportation center, number one, and number two, it's only valid for an hour. So I thought this, in a way, it's an absurd situation. Let's say I'm coming from the White Line from Hannaford, and I would like to get off at High and Main Street and go to, let's say, Ace Hardware, which is right there, and be back in 5 minutes, and then board the same bus, board the red line, to which I would normally have to transfer according to this system at the transportation center. But by the time I'm done with my shopping, the red line, will come and may even have some extra time to wait for it to High and Main Street. But because I'm not transferring at the transportation center, the driver will not, allow me to use that ticket. Also, it would be on the same bus that I would otherwise have been taking at the transportation center. Rebecca, do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
Okay. So why would that be? You're not losing anything. I'm taking the same bus that I would otherwise have been taking at the transportation center. So I think that is not very rational to do it that way, to just allow people to transfer at the transportation center. I can see that you put on a 1 hour limit. That will give the bus company some extra money, because otherwise, I could go everywhere in town, buy and this and that, or go to the library, and then board the bus again with my same transfer ticket. So, but if you would limit it to 1 hour and allow people to board the bus wherever they happen to be, I thought that would be a fair compromise.
Thank you.
And then I wanted to talk about, you said we don't have money to go to Keene or Greenfield. Of course, that's a long trip. But what if you would run a small bus and charge so that, I don't know how much it would be to be profitable for you, $5, $10, and ask people would they be willing to pay that for a ride, let's say, to Keene once a week or so. I don't know what the price would be and whether many people would be interested, but a lot of people say they would love to go to Keene even if they had to pay quite a bit for it.
Hi, I'm Mike Martin, and I can understand her issue with similarities. I asked for a bus transfer, and I wanted to go on the B line, and I understand. I figured it out on my own. Is if you do it for an hour at the transpo, you know it's within guidelines. But if you get off the bus at, say, High in Maine, and the bus is not coming, you know, and the ticket, you know, stamped for like 4 o'clock, and the bus, you know, is en route, you've lost some portion of that time, you know. But a lot of times, you know, there's different times of the schedule, like if the Bellas Falls bus is running and it's left the transpo, I think that getting a transfer and going across the street so you can get on that to go the other direction, or Hannaford when it comes to get a transfer and just catch that going up, you know. And the thing with Keene is, you know, Keene has a great system, you know, and I don't know if you can get sponsorship. I don't know how it works. You know, like Dartmouth, they got their own sponsorship, and you know, most of the, you know, the college over there, you know. I think that if that was possible, you know, then, you know, I heard, and I asked this the other day, is New Hampshire don't want to get involved, but it's kind of like a partnership, like we're bringing you, you know, over there, and then we're getting you on their bus system, so both parties are like $5 or $10 for a ride. I mean, that's, you know, I don't know. You'd have to take like a survey on that, because I think, you know, if you get like 2 or 3 riders to go to Keene, you've wasted money. But, you know, like for $5, you know, it's like you're paying for the gas, but a bus, who knows what they use for fuel. You know, I can understand that, but, you know, Greenfield, when I had to have an MRI, you know, you got to have connections. You got to have your sister, your friend, and, you know, you can only guess what kind of situation. Oh, I can't do that day. I'm working that day, you know. But some form of, like, transportation, I mean, you got the medical rides and all that, and you got hundreds of people wanting rides, you know. It's like, so it's kind of like a personal community thing, and that Sunday schedule, there should be some sponsorship to like connect that, you know, like, yeah, if you go to Keene, you're going to Target, you're going to Walmart, you make like a simple route. We're going down this road, down Winchester, and we're coming back up West Street, you know, and you can just transfer to their, you know, just on your brochure. And then again, you know, like, I tell the drivers sometimes, you know, the tickets, you put them in and the ink, they're like, well, how can you read this? You know, and I have to ask them or get another transfer sometime. You know, that's another issue, you know, it's like, so I make it aware to them. And the thing is, I still see it today, that I ride a bicycle and I gotta put it on the bike, you know, the racks are not fixed, and it goes to the station. I don't know how long it takes, but, you know, the handle to pull to unlock it is still broke. And this has been a week now, you know, I mean, I don't know. And it's like little things, you know, that make a difference. You know, AC ain't the biggest thing, but I find your service great. The buses are clean, you know, people are courteous, they're happy. I just think that it needs to be looked at like a standpoint of like this fall, when classes in colleges want to boost their enrollment. If I get a schedule in Keene or some community college somewhere, can't go, you know, like, and I would, you know, like, could go there twice a day, you know, and 3 times a day. But I think that would be an interest in, you know, your part and Keene or Greenfield. 'Cause I missed my appointment with the MRI. I could've got a medical ride, but I didn't do that. I just called a friend.
Thanks. I just want to assure people who just arrived that you're not late. And there was publicity that said the meeting started at 1:30. Other publicity said it started at 1 o'clock. So you haven't really missed anything. There was a short presentation. There's copies of there. We're going to be going through that again in a little while. We're just taking comments at this point. If you look at the second to last slide, it lists these questions, so that's sort of the frame of the discussion. And everyone at the beginning introduced themselves and why they were here, so if you two would like to just say who you are and why you're here, that would be great.
I'm Christine Hart. I'm the Executive Director of the Brattleboro Housing Partnerships, and we have now 7 properties in town. So we have an interest in the bus.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm Alicia Underwood. I'm the Blueprint Program Coordinator at Brattleboro Memorial Hospital, and I promote self-management programs, so I'm here to see what the community thinks about it.
And I had just another question. Like I said, no service on Sunday, but I think that if you cut out one of these programs, so it's sort of their goal, you know, to bring in a Sunday service that's limited to, I wouldn't mind staying in town for Sunday or go to church here in Brattleboro, or, you know, and say maybe 2-3 times, and then just cut something out so we can have a schedule to help the people get to their, you know, areas. We get all the brochures in the mail, but we can't mail order them, but, you know, I mean, want to go there.
Yeah, I think we'd love to offer Sunday service, and it could be done, but then you'd be taking a significant chunk out of your regular weekday service, so you couldn't have hourly service, then you couldn't have evening service if you wanted to do Sunday service. You'd have to pull something out somewhere. We'll certainly look at it, but...
you know, the state's only going to give you so much money, or wherever you get your money, is like, everything has to be combined, you know, to work properly.
The big funding question at the moment is from the federal government, because most of the funding is federal money, and no one knows what the federal government's going to do in terms of transportation funding coming up. So it's a big wild card. The state contributes quite a bit, and the localities contribute some of the local match, but it's mostly federal money. So it's going to be coming out of Washington to determine what the overall funding level is going to be. And for now, we're assuming flat or even slightly reduced funding for the short term.
Yeah,
for the longer term, we hope that there's more.
Billions of dollars spent overseas. It's like, and you could use it here for us. You know, I mean, in versus other people. I mean, we're doing the best we can, and we can only hope.
Other comments? Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes, so I have a car, but it's co-owned, so half the year it is up in Burlington, so I do ride the current quite a bit. And I wanted to give you a compliment. The riders could not be more professional or more pleasant, courteous, helpful. They're very skillful in what they do, and they make everybody feel welcome. So kudos to them.
We certainly saw that in all the surveys. Drivers got very high marks across the board.
Yeah.
I think they make a very good connection with the customers. I guess so. I see it from the local user level, and I have some of these same issues. I'd like to see evening coverage and so forth.
How late, when you say evening service, how late do you have in mind? What does that mean to you?
Oh, maybe going back to your suggestion about the vans. For example, let's say I don't live in West Brattleboro, but let's say that I did. It would be difficult for me to come downtown, you know, for gallery walk or for a lot of the cultural activities. Brattleboro is known for so many cultural and social activities. And so I would feel isolated, I think, if I didn't have access to some of these things. The new BMC, the Music Center, is now going to be in a different location, and maybe the people downtown would like to be able to go to a concert or enjoy some of these things. So just in terms of utilizing the town and taking advantage of our our rich culture here, it would be wonderful and help get seniors and even young people out and about. So I think that would be wonderful if the funding could be found. I'm hearing what you say, but I'm hoping perhaps there'll be some state or regional funding, or grants that could be applied for. And on a higher level, I really feel that we should be progressive. We're known as a progressive state. We should be emphasizing public transportation as a responsible energy use and just a green way to travel. And it should be convenient so that people will want to use it and will use it. And one other thing I wonder is, I couldn't help thinking, this is the teacher in me, but I couldn't help thinking, wouldn't it be nice, maybe you could have some commercials, you know, get to know your rider, or get to know your fellow, your driver, or get to know where you can go on the CRT. Maybe even college credit could be given to students to help produce such a commercial or something like that. I'd like to see more young people using it as well. And certainly the seniors on fixed incomes, and I include myself in that, really depend upon that availability to get around and take full advantage of this area. And we'd be getting a gold star for being responsible, having a green perspective. So I just wanted to share those with you. Also, we have some housing changes coming up. I don't know how many seniors there are in town, or handicapped people who would like to go to some of these things, or even just shopping, like you say, to Keene. But Red Clover is now, as you say, on the other side of town. A motel, I think, on Putney Road is going to become apartments, and I believe some housing is planned to be moved to the Austin campus. So there are people spread out in a number of places. I guess one person suggested to me just sort of a shuttle, I don't know if this would be possible, maybe a smaller van that would just do a certain route, just go round and round, you know, taking people different places. But I think you have the customers out there. I really think you do. It's just they may not know what's possible for them, and it may not seem convenient to them. But it's a wonderful service, and there's even more that could be utilized out there.
Yeah, another suggestion about saving money, I don't know, I don't have a car and I've never owned a car. I mean, I have a driver's license, but I've never owned a car, so I don't know so much about gas prices, especially not for buses. But the movers, for instance, in Bennington, they have very small buses, and they go very frequently. But without, you know, increasing the frequency, if you could just use smaller buses on the red line, sometimes it has happened I was the only passenger, or maybe 2 or 3 people on a gigantic bus for which seats, I don't know, 40 people or so.
Yeah.
So if you would have a very small bus, I don't know how much money it would save you, but I'm sure it would save you some.
The greatest cost of bus transportation is not the fuel, it's the driver. So you can use a big bus or a small bus, and they're going to cost pretty much the same, because
How is it possible that a big bus consumes as much fuel as a small
But
bus?
I'm not saying there is some savings, but fuel is not the biggest portion of the expense
No, I'm not saying,
on an
but,
hourly
you know,
basis.
Everything helps, you know, giving you a
Yeah,
smaller bus.
I mean the thing about having lots of different kinds of buses, that increases the cost for the agency to maintain different fleets for different times of day.
Oh, I see what you mean, yeah.
It gets complicated.
Yeah.
I understand, and we hear this all the time. It's like, oh, you should use a smaller bus.
Yeah.
But then you have to have a garage that has capacity for big buses and small buses.
Yeah, yeah.
And it does save a little bit of money on fuel, but really it wouldn't save enough to make it worthwhile to have separate fleets like that.
Yeah. Okay.
So I appreciate your point, but I just want to give you that information.
No, I understand.
Yeah. Did you have a comment? Yeah.
Yeah, so I had probably a little bit more specific comment than what some people have been talking about, but to your point about the housing, so the Wyndham and Windsor Housing Trust is developing 22 apartments up on the north end of town on Putney Road, So there is more residential development going up there. There's quite a bit of employment opportunities up there as well with CNS wholesalers, where there already is a stop, and then the book press there has quite a few employers there. And we had been talking with SEDT about getting a formal stop at this new development, which will serve 22 people, the majority of which will be formerly homeless and probably make use of the bus to get downtown, to get to Hannaford. So we were here to discuss increasing service in that area to make it more accessible for people living up in that section of Brattleboro.
Peter, how many times a day are you thinking?
We didn't know. I mean, obviously the more the better. Right now, the stop goes to CNS like 3 times, I think, once late morning and twice in the afternoon. We had thrown around maybe 2 stops, early morning to get downtown for work, and then maybe mid-morning again, and then 2 other stops in the afternoon to either get back from work or head downtown in the afternoon. And then obviously what works with the current system, but we're anticipating quite a few riders up in that area.
Again, this is the trade-off of coverage versus frequency.
Right.
That we've talked to SIT. They have a lot of people there. They would like service there. That's kind of a long way off of Putney Road to go there and back, but that's not to say we're not going to go there. There's a fitness center up beyond CNS that they'd like to get to. That's beyond where the bus goes now. It'd be great to get there, but every mile you're going up there is less mileage somewhere else. So this is the trade-off we have to do through this process, given that we can't do everything that we want to do. But we certainly want to hear what the needs are so that we can understand what the priorities are in the community and to deploy those resources the best way possible. So we know exactly where these units are. It's right by CNS.
Yes,
Okay.
Peter and I have had a number of discussions, and he's made his input very well heard.
Okay.
We hope to respond positively.
So is it possible, like like Wyndham Windsor and different places that the buses go to, is it a way of back to that partnership, is it a way of everybody has to pay for something, It's like, is there a way that they can contribute, maybe they have funding for the federal, part is easier, but yours is kind of like, you really should get the money. They can get money too and put a portion of it in there, so it kind of reduces your cost, so you can allow these lines to happen on Sunday, because I know what he's talking about. It's like, not the employees at Hannaford, but someone pays something, to help, because that does deter employment at Hannaford, another place.
The current is proactive about asking partners whether they'd be willing to help support the service financially. And some of them are, and some of them aren't, and that discussion certainly happens, and we always look for more local contributions to be match for the federal money and to help increase the service.
Yeah, I'd go bowling if I could get up there at nighttime, but it's not happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
As I said, I have talked to my neighbors and friends, and so I have a few topics that come up regularly when we talk about how can we use the service. And so I hopped on a bus and did a round trip just to see what the experience would be like and what questions come up.
Which route did you ride?
The White Line.
Okay.
And one question that has come up was about the scheduling. For some reason, people have a hard time understanding the scheduling. So I don't know if there's a way.
It's not for some reason, it's because it's hard to understand.
So if there's a way it can be more clear,
Absolutely.
that would be helpful. And some people who wanted to take the bus to get to work didn't mention that the bus was late getting them to work, but that the bus had come early, and so they missed the bus. And on my ride, it looked to me like it might be difficult for a driver to find some places to stop and wait if he's ahead of schedule. And they said it was worse to be early than late.
Absolutely.
And then I understood that you could only bring on the bus what you could hold on your lap. So this is, when I go shopping, I take this to put my shopping in, my smart cart. And so if what I understand is true, my cart would not work on the bus. I couldn't bring this with what I shopped with.
Right. That is not true.
That's not
Oh, good. So I noticed the aisles are pretty narrow and the seats are kind of, so where, could there be a place, like when I get on the train, I put my luggage, you know, when I get inside and then I go take my seat. I don't know if there can be a spot. I don't know where I'm gonna put my cart or.
Usually in the rear of the bus, there's
rear.
always spots, or in the front of the bus if they're side facing. But it doesn't mean we can't look at creating a bin or removing some seats to do that. But there is no limit on, if you can get it on the bus, we'll take it.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there's
okay.
no limit.
It's pretty much what you can carry in two hands. What we try to discourage is somebody making 3 and 4 trips off the bus with, you know, 18 grocery bags. So it's really what you can carry one trip onto the bus. And you can get that up there, or the driver should be able to help you with it as well.
Okay. And then, do all of the buses have a lift?
Yes.
Of some kind?
Yes.
So the bus I was on had a lift at the back door. But several people I know who use walkers did not know that, and so they avoided the regular buses because they didn't know there was a lift in the back. So I don't know if that could be something that could be put out for information. And then people wanting to use the bus to go down to catch a train. And there isn't a stop at the train. I know there is one at Marlboro College. And I didn't know if that could be coordinated with the Amtrak passenger schedule. So if the best we could do is the Marlboro drop off.
I thought the blue line had a stop at Union Station.
It is Union Station.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
it doesn't stop there on every trip, but it does stop there.
Oh, and is it coordinated with the passenger Amtrak schedule?
Well, that's only 2 trips a day, so
Right.
Yeah, it's really.
I'm not sure. And, you know, how often is that train on time anyway, so.
True, yeah.
In the afternoon.
Yeah. And then finally, one man said he uses the bus regularly to go to Walmart, and he wondered if Walmart was making any contribution to the service, taking all those Vermont customers over to New Hampshire.
They
It
should.
is a national joke among transit companies that nobody in the United States has ever gotten a penny from Walmart for operating expenses. Walmart is notorious as a company to not support public transit. I'm not saying that they're against it, but the time to ask them for money is when they're building a new one, and that wasn't done. So the answer is they just do not donate to that cause to keep the service or to expand the service. They may create a bus stop, they may help in other ways.
Yeah, I mean,
But you'll never get a dime from them.
some retailers don't want the bus there at all, and they're even worse than Walmart. Walmart will at least understand that riders need to get there, and they will create a spot for a stop, usually. So they're not the worst, but they don't. They're a very poor company, I understand. So it's, they don't have any money.
And then I noticed at Hannaford's, there didn't seem to be a place. So after you do your shopping, you're waiting for the bus. There didn't seem to be a designated place to sit and wait for the bus, or if the weather's bad. Someone said, well, it's there at that picnic bench. Well, that's where the employees go out to have a smoke. So that would be a terrible place to have to
Hannaford's
wait.
is one of those companies that doesn't appreciate the bus being there. We've been asked to move several times from location to location to location. So typically we come in at the northern end of Hannaford's, look for people that are waiting by that door, and then cycle up through to come south and look for people waiting at the bench.
So maybe all of us who are regular customers at Hannaford's need to let them know that we'd like more accommodation.
If you go to the management at Hannaford and yell at that, if that's more likely to work.
Okay, all right.
It'd be
To Hannaford's.
It'd be easier to put a bench at the vacant Home Depot, you know, right there under the ledge, than it would to, and then you just turn out by Riverside Bank. I mean, and I understand what she's saying, it'd be nice, but you gotta think it through. Somebody gets off the bus and they get hurt on the property, then you know how it works. It's like this, the curb, the whatever, you know, and a lot of issues. But
And then I had one question. This isn't like a top priority, and I've only lived here 5 years. But I wondered if there would be a market for, and you would be interested in the idea of a shuttle, say, to the airport, Manchester, or wherever is, you know, the closest connection, Boston, Manchester, because I had to pay a fortune to get there, and there might be quite a few people. There's that new bus now, the Max bus, I think, that goes to Boston. It takes forever, but it does go there. But if people want to go to an airport, it'd be nice to be able to just get on a bus and everybody just head on down. And they could pay for it.
Yeah, sure. I think it was Meg from Voc Rehab.
She just left.
She just left, darn, okay. From the Vermont Department of Health, right, can you tell us where your clients come from, and are they using the bus now, or how can we help your agency get more of your clients on the bus?
I think one thing that was...
Excuse me, Randy, everybody, sorry to interrupt, I'm with BCTV. If you could speak into that microphone right there,
Oh, yeah, sure.
then the people who are going to be watching this later to get feedback will be able to hear what you're saying.
Is that on?
I think it's on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hello?
All right, you won't be able to hear it amplified in the room, but we'll be able to hear it amplified on the video.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, so, so one thing that was mentioned was that our WIC participants too, if you're a stop closer to the building, because if you have multiple children with you or anything and it's raining outside, snowing outside, even though it doesn't seem like that far, when you have children in tow and you're trying to carry little ones, an infant and like, you know, a 4-year-old, that becomes an issue. So that was one main area of concern for us. A lot of our family members we really try and accommodate, and we have outlying clinics in Townsend and Westminster, so we try and reach some of the different areas. But it kind of varies, you know, we serve Windham County, so it varies where people are coming in from, but we try and, for the rural communities, you know, provide clinics that way too, so people can have appointments with us. But I think our biggest area of concern was having a stop closer to the actual building itself for that reason for families. What?
What's the address?
It's right across the building right over there for 232 Main Street.
So the health department building?
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just right.
Next door.
Yeah, yeah. The street parking lot, yeah.
Jeff, could you talk to us about where your students come from to go to NECA?
Well, they come from all over the world, but where they live in Brattleboro is a fair number on South Main and then downtown. I mean, those are sort of the, and downtown's sort of a general, but within walking distance of down here. Then I have to say they're distributed probably fairly widely over the area after that, but those are two particular concentrations of folk.
Is it set housing at South Main Street? Does it change? Or
No, it's just, there happens to be a lot of rental housing down there that they can afford, and the same thing downtown, so it's not a single location.
Are there basic times of the day that they come and go?
Yeah, and that's a good question, because we've actually just changed the professional program, which is the one I'm particularly interested in, and that's going to start most days around 9, so they need to be before that and run till about 5.
Just a quick note, excuse me for interrupting,
Yeah.
but Core's request that we use the mic is going to apply to all of us, so that folks can hear
I
us
thought it
on
only
tape.
applied to her.
Can we pass that mic around? Or is it long enough for it now? Okay.
Recorded.
I'll go over to the mic.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
I forgot completely. Thanks, Peter. So let me just answer the questions again for the record. Students are living primarily in the South Main Street area and then downtown are the two principal locations. Access points, during the day, we now have a full-time professional program, starts around 9, runs to about 5, but there are some evening classes. We're open until 9. So there are some evening classes that are, particularly our professional students will use, but there are a lot of community folk who come to our, what we call our session classes, which are their circus training. So we have one session that starts at 6 and one at 7:30. So there's a fair amount of evening traffic of community people from a large area of this, but that includes some of our professional students. So.
How were they getting to your facility when you were down here?
We were at the cotton mill?
Right.
That's a very good question, but I think that's why people were living in South Main, is they could walk to the cotton mill.
Right.
So we'll have to see where they end up living now, but that's why because of the location on Putney Road, there's no real housing right around that. They're gonna have to be somewhere else, so transportation will be crucial to them.
What's your student enrollment?
There are about 35 professional students and several hundred recreational students who are there. Again, our recreational classes are largely evenings and weekends. So different transportation picture. It's the professional students and the associated faculty that I'm principally interested in right now.
And that's 9 to 5?
Yeah.
And that's Saturdays too?
No, that'd be Monday through Friday. There's Saturday work going on, and some of the pro students will be in there, but if we could get Monday through Friday, we'd be pretty happy.
I have a question for Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you have any of the school kids that are coming after school and after school program for the high school, elementary?
Yeah, we have a youth program. I don't know which days it meets, but I think there's something each day. Starts at 3 o'clock when school's over. So yes, that's right.
For the high school or the middle school? Or?
Middle and high school, so our youth program, both the intermediate and the advanced, probably meet one of them on each of those days, starting right after school, so 3 to 5 or 6. Thank you, good question.
So they'll go right from the high school to your place?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any idea about numbers?
It's about 15 or 18 in each, the intermediate and the advanced.
So that's 30 to...
About 35 or 36 total kids, yeah. I don't know all these perfectly because I've only been there for a month, so I don't know. I'm trying to learn as fast as I can. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
It'll be crucial to us to get some travel up there.
And Christine, did you have comments or thoughts, or?
I do. Yeah, I'm never without comments.
Yeah.
You know that don't make it. So, Jeff, who has left, reminded me of one actual significant problem that we have encountered, and that is we want very much to strengthen our relationship with the Boys and Girls Club. And that means getting the kids there after school, which the school can do, but it's the going home up to Moore Court and Ledgewood that doesn't work. And we tried it, and we actually tried it with our own bus, and it just didn't work very well. So, you know, I'd just like to put that on your radar because we'd like to do it again. We really think they have excellent programming for our youth, and we'd love it if we could have a bus schedule that could pick them up and bring them back to Moore Court and Ledgewood.
So what time do you need it?
Sometime between 5:30 and 6, I would think.
Pick up at the transportation center?
I think they could do that, yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah, yeah.
And then we're gonna go to where, you wanna go to where?
Moore Court off of School Street in Ledgewood Heights.
Yeah.
When we had the program, we had a lot of interest, and it was really the transportation issue. And we worked it out with the school bus took them there, which was great. But it was the getting back that really became the problem. So, you know, we can follow up and talk to you individually about that, but we'd really like to get back to.
So every weekday?
Every weekday, yeah, Monday.
During the summer too, or just the academic?
No, just the academic year. And then during school break, the kids don't tend to go down there, they tend to stay.
Would you have a school bus that leaves UHS to take kids?
The school bus system did get the kids to the Boys and Girls Club.
So
there is a way to get them there on the
So
school bus.
that is still running, they can still.
I believe so, yeah. So, because we have elementary and all the way through to high school kids that were going. And it was really a good program, and we really want to do it again. Part of the way it works, this gentleman was asking about, you know, using federal money. We actually have some money that we can use to help the kids pay for their memberships, if we can get them there. So that's one. Jeff reminded me of that. And the other is that this woman mentioned, not today, not tomorrow, but within 3 years, we hope to have a new building at the Winston Prouty campus. And we certainly hope that there'll be a vigorous bus system going up there as we and many others move there with housing and programs and services. So that would be great.
I don't think there's anybody in the audience that can speak for Austin. Nobody here today?
I didn't know, but
okay.
The little conversation that I had with Chloe over it was, it would be really great to have bus service getting there.
Right, and as Steve mentioned, we're just about ready to start planning, so we need to find out who, what, how, when, which is why we're trying to be so specific.
Yeah, no, I would contact Chloe Leary, the executive director of the Prouty Center, because they've got the development plan. We're just a piece of it. But we'd love to have bus service, obviously.
I have a question. The kids
Mhm.
going home, is there some sort of sponsorship for the bus fare for them, or would they be expected to pay for it themselves?
If they had to pay and that was part of the fee, then we would look to see if we could pay that.
And a pass, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we would definitely be open to seeing if we could put that into the budget. The budget, it's a federally constrained budget, so we have to be careful about how we spend it, and we know we can spend it on their memberships. I think we could probably work transportation in, but I can't make a promise without reading the paperwork. And then my only other two thoughts are, one, I've really appreciated working with the bus system. You've always been very responsive. We have bus stops at all of our developments. I don't know if the Red Clover people came with good suggestions or what, but I'm sure they were. So you've always been very good to work with. And I would just make one comment, and that is that there are people with disabilities in the community that use that bus. And sometimes the effect of their disability can cause them to be problematic for other people. Let's put it that way. And we did have, I think this was before your time, I think you were there. We had some very good discussions around what to do. And you folks were very good about listening and understanding what we were telling you. And I just want to commend you for that. The disability community is growing in Brattleboro, as is the senior population. So I think those are things to keep in mind as you're planning for the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No problem, sir. Any other questions or comments or thoughts? Yes.
I'm Jane Moore, and I live in Red Clover Commons. And there's one thing I'd like to say, which is not a problem, and it's not a question.
Yeah, if you can speak into the
Do
microphone.
I have to go up there?
Maybe we can hand it to you. So. Thank you.
I would just like to commend you on the quality of all of your regular drivers. They are wonderful, they are polite, they're very positive, they're good drivers, and they're polite to other motorists all the time, and it's just a pleasure to ride with them. Now, I first started using your service 2 years ago when my old car gave out, and I was going up regularly to Sojourns in Westminster, and I would have medical rides up there. I met more interesting people who had probably been on the road all their lives and just couldn't stand to stay home when they got older. But, and 99% of those drivers were just super. And now that I'm using the in-town substitute for the taxi service to get around town, I find them certainly very, very good, and using their common sense about a lot of things. Now, I know you have a lot of new drivers and volunteers, and some of them haven't any idea where anything is in Brattleboro, and I've had fun giving them directions to get places. I can't tell you how often they wanted to deliver me to the gathering place, because since you've been bringing people down from out of town there, that was the only senior center they knew about, but I finally headed them off before they get there. And, but even when they don't know where they're going, they are polite, and they are good drivers, and so I can't say enough in favor of your drivers. Please let them know that we appreciate them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for training the drivers.
You should. You'd be surprised.
You're training them.
You'd be surprised how many of them can't find their way through this.
It's a hard town.
Yeah.
I got another question. It relates to employment, that is, yeah, anyways. I'm Mike Martin, I'm from Brattleboro, and I ask a lot of questions about a lot of different agencies and stuff, and one I ask about is the post office, and I'm kind of really distraught over it, but I find that they have part-time workers, and I relate to their work because I work late morning hours in snow and rain and sleet, and I don't know if it's possible, but if it, possible to, have part-time drivers that are you don't get benefits, and, not to the, have certain hours that, a maximum 10 hours, on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, or say, and then, that would probably work to deter your issue of, drivers to drive, but, I know they need, and you would insure them, but their portion of medical and other things, there's a lot of support for food stamps and, people that can apply for medical disability. They cut my federal check by $134, but the state was so kind that they have forms out that can fund back that money, so if that's a issue that maybe can be drawn up, work part-time to give us allowed limited Sunday service or little later night service. It was just another question, because government does it, but I ain't happy with, because they got more problems than we do, and they give our money away to places that should have been done and over with by now. Thank you.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you. Just to reiterate the next steps over the coming weeks, we'll be putting together the plan. Keep an eye out for another public meeting that we'll be having in the fall, where we'll present the plan and the schedule for comments and input and we'll see if we gave you what you needed as best we can, and then we'll move on from there. So thank you all for coming. There'll be another meeting tonight at 5:30 if you haven't had enough yet, or tell your friends that they can come then to have their input.
Thank you.
The agenda tonight is very, very simple. This is a very short PowerPoint of 5 or 6 slides that we will go through quickly, but mostly tonight we're here to listen to you. And we want to hear everything that's on your mind and what you think we need to do to make Brattleboro's bus system even better. So just a couple of small things. Please stand up and speak into the microphone when your time comes, and or when if you choose to speak, so that we can get it on television. And we'd also like to ask that we're going to go around the room quickly and introduce ourselves, but I would like to ask you just for your name and any affiliation you have or interest you have. Please do not let us know about what you think about the bus system at this part of the meeting tonight. You'll have plenty of time as we go on in the evening, but please, a brief introduction of yourself and why you're here, that would be great. My name is Randy Shoemaker. I work for Southeast Vermont Transit, which runs the current from the Massachusetts line up to Heartland and over to Weston, this whole territory of 30 towns. And then we run the mover over in the Deerfield Valley. And from the state of Vermont,
I'm Tim Bradshaw from Vermont Agency of Transportation. I'm the public transit program coordinator for the service area, as well as Randy mentioned, over in the mover service area as well.
I'm Rebecca Gagnon. I'm the general manager of the current division, which provides transportation on this side of the state.
could you start us off, please? With your name and why you're here?
Me?
Yes, please.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
My name is Agnes. Do I have to go in the microphone? No. My name is Agnes, and I'm here because I'm a bus rider.
Okay.
And I want to hear what other people think, and I want to express my feelings.
Great.
Molly Burke, I'm a member of the Vermont Legislature representing Brattleboro, and I'm on the Transportation Committee and a member of the Public Transit Advisory Council statewide.
And I'm Margaret Atkinson, and I'm with the Winston Prouty Center for Child and Family Development, which is on the former campus of the Austin School.
I'm Stephen Dutton. I am a writer, one of the writers on the bus.
Great.
Mark Denayo. I'm a rider on one of the transit buses.
Great.
Judy, and I'm on the bus and ride all 3 buses at times.
Marilyn, I just moved to Brattleboro on the 4th of July. I chose to come to Brattleboro because I've given up my car a year ago, and I wanted to live someplace where I could walk to town and ride the buses. So I really chose to come to Brattleboro because I heard there were buses here, and I thought that would be, I'm going to die here, and I want to, I'm not going to move anymore.
Not tonight.
Okay. Yeah, no, not tonight. But I don't want to have a car anymore. So.
Great.
That's great. Wendy Harrison, I'm on the board of Southeast Vermont Transit, and I hope you have many, many years riding the bus.
Thank you.
I'm Joe Madison. I'm on the board of the Brattleboro Music Center, which just moved from across the street out to the old Winston Prouty Center, and so I'm just here expressing the needs of students to be able to get to and from the music center.
Great. Gentlemen just walked in. We're just giving our names and what our affiliation or purpose here is tonight.
Gary Ferguson, resident of Brattleboro, occasional user of the bus service.
Great. We have a sign-in sheet over there if you would like it, if you please, and there's a copy of the handout that we're doing. We will begin. Thank you very much.
Brattleboro Reformer. Oh, no, the Congress.
Sorry. Did I say that on camera? Hi, everybody. My name's Wendy Levy. I'm a reporter with the Commons newspaper, and I'm covering this event tonight.
And Nolan's working in Brattleboro Television. So, great. So, 2 seconds of history. The State of Vermont Agency of Transportation that supports us financially and in every other aspect, emotionally, was nice enough to grant us a research grant, and we were able to hire a consultant named Steve Falbo from Stedman Hill Consulting in Montpelier, and he is spearheading this study along with the Wyndham Regional Commission as part of it, and then of course our company, and of course an active role by the agency. And this grant is to take a look at all of Brattleboro's 3 routes, the red, white, and blue lines, and to see how we can be more efficient, if we can identify portions of runs that could be used elsewhere, and also to see how we can increase ridership. Those are the basic goals of what we're trying to do here. A couple of small things. One, this does not represent any new money or any new opportunities. We do about 9,000 hours of service a year in Brattleboro, which sounds like a lot, but it doesn't go that far, but we're happy to have what we have. But that amount of funding and that amount of hours is not about to change. So, and we're lucky to maintain it at the level that we are, despite contributions from fairs and businesses and everybody else. So we're not here tonight to talk about going to Keene or going to Greenfield. A lot of people have mentioned Newfane. We do have an active application in to go up Route 30 as far as East Jamaica with the state. That's pending New Start funding, but there hasn't been any New Start funding for the past 2 fiscal years, Tim?
Yeah. Yes.
So that application is idling. So we need to focus on redistributing the 9,000 hours to the best of our advantage here this evening. And we're here to listen. There's going to be some things that you're going to want that we may or may not be able to provide, but we still want to hear it, and we want to make sure we get everybody's input. So the goals of this program, I think I mentioned, more convenient, less confusing, easier to use, and we would like to get more rides. We talked about some of the segments that may not be optimized. We go a lot of places, but sometimes there's only 1 or 2 riders a year that we need to take a hard look at, and we want to make, as I mentioned before, the best use of our resources, our 9,000 hours. We've been working on this project since May, collecting data. The bus drivers recorded on-off riders at every stop for every route for 2 weeks. So the consultant has a lot of good hard data as to what stops are productive and what parts of routes are productive. And then we've done an awful lot of surveys over the past 2 months. We've done a rider survey, we've done an employer survey, bus drivers we've talked to in depth, institutional partners like the schools, colleges, major businesses. We've done a general public non-rider survey, and then we've talked to the town of Brattleboro, and we'll be appearing before the select board at their first meeting in September. I forgot the date of that, but we'll be appearing before them. So the surveys have been both handouts and online. I think on the general public surveys, I think we had 53 or 58, and we're just under 100 surveys for the riders. The survey period is over, and so what we're going to do with our process now is we're going to go and we are going to provide a route plan for you to take a look at. We're going to come back to you in a few more weeks, do another round of public meetings, and ask you what you think of the plan. The plan that we think we're going to hear more of tonight maybe, but we've heard so far is we want more frequent service, we want later evening service, and we want a less confusing schedule. And I think all of those are fairly obvious, and we share those goals. That's what we've heard so far. I mentioned that there's not any additional funding available, as much as we would love to do more. No major expansion. Sundays are unlikely. We're not going to throw it out. We're going to try, but Sunday is tough, and we're trying to serve the most people as we can. The system can be made more efficient and convenient. I think that's going to be fairly straightforward. Our schedules are going to be cleaner. I think we're going to have probably just a red line and a blue line, and the white line's times will be incorporated into either the red or the blue. So you'll have one less bus to choose from. We're trying to eliminate one stop being served by 4 or 5 buses. There's a bus that comes down from Bellows Falls to add to the confusion, and we're gonna try to work on all of that. And then there is increases in service for some areas may come at the expense of others. Those are some of the quieter route sections that I was talking about before. If we can take those hours and put them to better use someplace, we will. So tonight, not so much in this order, but we're looking to find out from you answers to these questions. And I don't think I need to read them to you, but it's general conversation on what are you looking for, what do you like, what you don't like, what's important to you, other comments. Please remember the Keene conversation and the Greenfield conversation and the Townsend Newfane conversation as those being we're working on them or they're not in the plan at this moment. So that is our little presentation, and it's designed to speak our piece and then listen. So if any of you would like to speak up, just raise your hand and go to the microphone, and we're all ears.
What's going on, guys? Mark and I are avid rider. I just came to Brattleboro, I would say, not even 20 days ago. From Laconia, New Hampshire, where they have a transit system somewhat like this. I'm asking for signage. There is absolutely no signage whatsoever. I can give you a couple of instances. You have High and Main. High and Main to me means on the corner of High and Main. It doesn't mean 100, no, I would say that's an overestimate. I'd say 50 yards up the street. Just signage at every single stop. Most people don't even know where the stops are. I'm running after buses constantly. And having hours listed at each stop, they do at some stops, but not at all. So it makes that even more confusing as well. And that's about it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've been working with the town, and that was number one on the discussion with them, is we do have signs made for every stop that says, here's when the bus is coming, and for whatever reason, some of those have been removed, and we're working on making those permanent and identifying them better. So, great point, you're absolutely right.
And some of the stops are near private property, so we may have to get permission from landowners to put up a sign, which is totally doable, yeah.
Or 20 yards down, whatever,
Yeah.
either or, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It's just, it's real difficult, because I'm like, what's this? Whoa, okay, then it's mismarked. There's one that's down over here that's supposed to be in front of, I'm having a brain lapse right now. It's in front of, it's like the Brattleboro Co-op downtown.
Yeah.
But it's not there, it's 20 yards again ahead, so I'm like.
Union Station.
Yeah, there you
Yeah.
go, thank you, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
Great.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Judy Malloy, and my interest existing in Brattleboro is to continue having the bus system. When I was a little kid, I took the bus to St. Michael's every day. And the bus driver's name, ironically, was Peanut Butter. And he lived in Guilford. And we haven't had it. And Mr. Banks is the one that had the bus system going in Brattleboro way back then. That's probably back in the 40s, 50s. Okay? And I like to see it continue because I do feel it's very important. I would like to see more of your retail people on Main Street using the system. They're still taking their cars, they're still parking in their needy spots in the back of Harmony and whatnot. And yet they go and say, you know, we want more customers. Well, if they wouldn't bring their cars to work, we would have more room. Just a suggestion. The other thing is that the change in the system, I like to see the Saturday late show come back. Yeah, because
I am Catholic, unfortunately, and I have to go to church. And the only way I go to church lately is either by bike, and then run like hell down to the corner of High Street, and I have to leave by the end of the faithful. I can't finish seeing, going to church, because it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it gets out 4:45. And the buses down here, 10 to 5, but they have that lap of 5 minutes. So sometimes you get it, sometimes you won't. It's a little hard at my age to pedal uphill. It's not fun to West Brattleboro. But that's my other suggestion. That would be my most, connection right there. It's 4 o'clock on Saturday at St. Michael's and 8 or 10 o'clock on Sundays. And then in the winter, it's very impossible as far as going. It's, inadequate for anybody to walk that distance down, And most of my friends have either died, moved, or gone away, one or the other. How important the connections to Putney and Bellows Falls? I don't know what to say about that. I mean, I've never gone just because of the times of the regular routes here on red, white, and blue are very difficult, especially if you have medical appointments. If you live in West Brattleboro, you've got those hours to consider. You've got to see if your medical advisor will, get you in so that you can be seen that day. Type of thing. It's limited. It really is. And then on Canal Street, I don't know. Peanut Butter used to do the whole route, Canal and Canal, But if you were able to give us 2 more buses, have one up and one down at all times, as far as Western Avenue and Canal Street goes, that would include the school too. You would, if you can afford that, that would be perfect, because that way it'd be on the hour, or on the half hour, whichever it might be, and let Walmart and Putney Road be one unit somehow. And the other suggestion would be to hire 2 more or 3 more standbys, on their breaks. That break hour they take in Brattleboro stinks, as far as I'm concerned, 2 to 2:30, or 2:30 to 3 o'clock. That's major hour for anybody to get out of a doctor's office to get home, or to travel to the doctor's office, or anything other than the doctor's office, to the grocery store. It's the highlight of the day, actually, It's like, but other than that, the drivers are fantastic, and they put up with a lot of grief, but I think they do an excellent job, all 3 of them, 4 of them. And the new one you have, John, he's very good too, as well as, who's that, Bill, I think it is?
Right.
Yeah, those 2 are very good too. I mean, they have a good personality, they tolerate, they like to joke around, a couple of them, which is fine once they get used to you, and vice versa. My only negativity, as far as the vehicle itself, I wish you would have a shampoo thing to clean the seats nightly. There's a lot of wet spots on some of them. If they're not wet, they're dried up wet spots. And with the flu season coming around, that's great. So I say, that's it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your feedback.
Don't mind me, put my book up today. Okay, that'll be fine. Yeah.
Marilyn. I also am Catholic, and living where I do on Green Hill Parkway, it's impossible for me to get to church. The schedule, having just moved here, the schedule is absolutely baffling. there are things that I just can't understand. Of course, not being from Brattleboro, it's taken me time to learn the names of streets, which I have done rather quickly. I'm wondering if you should rename some of your bus stops. For instance, the River Garden. The bus doesn't stop really near River Garden. It stops quite a ways down because there's no place to stop in front of what is the River Garden, which I assume is the building that says Strolling of the Heifers.
Mhm.
That is, okay.
Yes.
And it actually has to go down quite a ways where it can pull off. The other problems that I've had are the transfers are difficult. If I want to go to Hannaford's, it's much more difficult to, from coming off of Western Avenue, it's more difficult to get over there. The other thing, and I realize that this is an expense for the town or for the transportation company, is some of us are getting older and we're not getting younger, and where there's quite a wait between buses sometimes, there isn't any place to sit down, or if it's raining, you can't get it out of the rain. I think about what it's going to be like in the winter, and I will still be coming into town, because that's where you have to go to buy what you need to live. So I'm wondering what that will be like. I moved here from the South Shore of Massachusetts, and of course I had access to the MBTA, and I could even take a boat into Boston if I wanted to. I chose to come to Brattleboro because I think it's a wonderful place, and this is where I want to end my life. Not today or tomorrow, but I love Vermont, and I'm very, very fond of Brattleboro. So I could have moved anywhere, but I came here because it's a wonderful place, and it has marvelous people. I love Vermont also. So a new schedule, a simplified schedule, would really be great for people who don't know it. And if other people choose to move here and they look at the bus schedule, it's like, well, is this, it's leaving the transportation center, but where is it going from there? It's just hard to understand. I think I'm used to the system where you have departures and arrivals, and that's much more difficult. I mean, this is a bus, not an airplane, so, or a train. But I think it could be simplified, so it would make more sense, and maybe more frequent. I find myself waiting. And a bus comes along at the transportation center, but it's not going where I need to go, so then I have to wait quite a while before another one comes along, and sometimes it's a long wait. Sometimes it's over an hour that you're waiting. I don't know if there's some way you can look at that. I can't make recommendations because I don't know what the needs are for. You're trying to meet a lot of needs, I understand that, and they are wonderful buses. I have no complaints about the buses. The bus drivers are the most helpful, kind people that you could wish for, and it makes riding the bus very pleasant to have these people as the bus drivers. You've done well in who you've hired.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. If I may just interject quickly, the service plan, the concepts, and I don't want to discourage input, but we know how awful the schedules are, and that is an absolute priority for us, is to make those simpler and easier. Getting rid of the white line, I think, is going to help us do that. And the other thing, I think, is transfers. We've been told about transfers, and we've been told about wait times, and we have the same service concept in mind, that maybe there'll be a bus that goes east-west or north-south, or maybe there'll be a bus that comes in on Western Avenue and goes up to Hannaford's or down to Price Chopper. And the other one will complement that. So we're very much aware of that and working on those concepts already. But again, that doesn't preclude anything you have to say, but we're in full agreement with what you're thinking. Please go ahead, thank you.
Bob, you can come in and sit down.
Agnes?
Been mentioned repeatedly. One of our fine bus drivers.
Sure. Well, not that one. Anyway, my name is Agnes, and I had not planned on talking, but I want to follow what these two ladies said. I've lived in Brattleboro for about 23 years, so I know all the places on the schedule. And still, it's written in Chinese to me. I know all not the names of the street, I know where the buses are, I know where I am everywhere. But your system of going like down and up and then there, and then it stops, so you have to go back up there and then here. I mean, you can ask him. I've been riding the bus since January, I think. And I still have to ask, when I'm at the transportation center, I still have to ask, when is who going where? Because the numbers is my problem. The names are fine for me. So what is important to preserve in the existing Brattleboro system, I think the fact that it's going to keep on going. That's all I can think of. And I would personally not change anything to the system. I'm actually very happy, but for what I just mentioned with the numbers. And what makes the most important connection to me personally, it's I live on High Street, so to me it's going to either West Brattleboro or Hannaford or Grasshopper or the hospital, you know, that type of thing. So the important connection to Putney and Bellows Falls don't mean anything to me. Other comments? I want to second what the two ladies have said. I think that the drivers are fantastic. They are so helpful. And what I like the best, when you said that they make the ride, you know, pleasant, what I like the best is the camaraderie between them. And I want to mention that because in this world nowadays, we just tend to complain because there are so many negative things that we are, you know, thrown at in the face through medias. And I think riding the bus, to me, every now and then when I need to do it, it makes me laugh, and everybody knows, they all know our names, and everybody talks on the bus, and it's just a wonderful experience instead of feeling that, oh, geez, I don't have a car, what an hassle. But it's not, and I'm not going to have a car for quite a while, and I'm just very grateful that the system exists, and very grateful for the help of the drivers.
Thank you.
Thank you. And please don't feel that anybody needs to get on that list of questions and answer every one of them. Just please let us know what you think. And those are guidelines, but I appreciate you very much going down the list. Don't feel you have to, and whatever you've got within the context of those questions or not.
Good evening, I'm Joe Madison. I'm at the board of the Brattleboro Music Center. We're excited to be at our new facility over on Guilford Road. And but to be honest with you, I hadn't thought about the bus system until we saw this in the paper and somebody drew this to my attention, because when we're across the street of Walnut Street, all buses go this way. So now all of a sudden we have to think about how convenient is it for students to be able to access the music center by public transportation. I'm excited where your stop is, that it's easily accessible. And my only, and I'm not a bus rider, though I told the board I will start riding the buses to see what is it like to come from the high school and middle school to get to the center, what is it like to come from different parts of town using public transportation. So I look forward to meeting some of your drivers. But I guess the one thing that I just look at, and I noticed and I want to reinforce people encouraging later hours if that's possible. Obviously the last bus at 5:16 is pretty early in the evening for when our students are taking classes. I can't give you data about how many students will be choosing to use public transportation, but my interest is it an option for students, and hopefully it will be. And again, thank you for your great service.
Don't go, Joe. We're not telling you. No, I tease you. Can you tell us what times you need the service to stop at your place, either to drop off or pick up?
Well, you know, the student classes are going to start largely after school, and they go well into the evening. I would be happy to provide what the latest scheduler times are when students are taking classes, but it goes, you know, 8 o'clock-ish, so that window is the question. So again, I can't tell you how many students would avail themselves of a 7:30 bus if there was a 7:30 bus, but I'm just encouraged. I saw that was one of the things that people have been talking about, and certainly that would make a difference for our families to use the service.
So your students leave the middle school or the high school and go to your place?
Well, the students come from all different places, from home, from the school, but they're available. They're going to be coming to take classes, music classes, after school, into the evening.
So it might be fair to assume that some will be coming from the high school.
Some might be coming directly, others will be coming from home, others will be coming after, you know, another activity someplace else. So I can't say they're all coming from the school, but you know, again, we'd be happy to work with you to help try to access some of that data and, as you go forward. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Before he gets going on his suggestion with the music school, they have the new bridge. And it wouldn't be any problem probably for the Red Line to make a sweep in over that bridge. And it would be good not only for the music department, but also for Memorial Park for skating in the winter and skiing and swimming in the summer. It's right across the street from each other. They could make a loop right around there and come right back out on the bridge to go to West Brattleboro or go downtown. It would save money and traffic-wise too. Okay? I just thought I'd point that out to you.
I second that. Oh, sorry.
Hi, my name is Stephen Dutton, and I belong to the Blind Association, and they moved up to the Winston Prouty Center. I like to see the bus going up to the Winston Prouty Center because there's a lot of organizations up there, and a lot of people go there.
That's the Austin school.
Now I'm gonna follow this. We didn't even coordinate this. So I'm Margaret Atkinson, and I'm from the Winston Prouty Center. A year ago, Winston Prouty moved onto the former Austin campus. And not only is our Early Learning Center and our community-based services housed there, the campus is now the home to 19 foreign nonprofit entities. So there's quite a large workforce that arrives at the campus every day. And so there may be some real potential over time for riders to be using the bus as their primary means of getting to campus and getting to their workplace. The range of services that are offered on campus are quite broad, and we feel, again, we didn't do a lot of data collection for you, but we feel that adding a stop along Maple Street and improving the accessibility of the community to the Prouty campus will be good for the people that we serve, and also good for the environment. There's a lot of cars that go up there already, but they don't necessarily have to if there was other means. And so as we look to the future to really building the campus as a community asset, we need the partners of the partnership of the current and other infrastructure things to really make that work as best as it can for people. So again, we would advocate considering adding that Maple Street, Guilford Street, Memorial Park, right up to Canal Street and the grocery store. I think there's some real potential there, and so we hope you can consider.
Can you help us, Margaret, with times of the day?
Well, certainly, the 8 in the morning to 9 kind of period when people arrive. I could see certainly the middle of the day. There's a lot of folks who go up there for appointments, for seeing caseworkers or visiting doctor, there's lawyers there, there's people going to meetings. And then again, the end of the day, it would be great if the bus could be people's commute to work. And I think, you know, the bus sounds so great. I now feel like I just should ride it, you know, because the ridership here has been a really good marketing for you just at this meeting. So why shouldn't more people in the community avail themselves to that experience?
What is late afternoon for you, Mark?
4:30, 5 o'clock. Could be later. The campus has, there's classes and events held there into the evening. I would say not with the kind of frequency that would happen at the music center, but if there was a bus later in the evening. But again, we didn't collect any we didn't like survey our tenants or anything like that. But there's a lot of potential there and more over time.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I kicked it off.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Molly Burke. I just wanted to add something to the signage issue. I'm on a committee, and actually Wendy is too, of how do we fix up the rail station. And signage has been mentioned. People get off the train and where do you go to get a bus? So, you know, that's something we could bring up. We're having a meeting tomorrow, but, you know, it'd be like, where do you find the Greyhound bus? Where do you find the local bus service? So right there at the train station would be a really great place for a sign.
Thank you. We had a nice meeting with the town manager, and Rebecca, from her previous days of running the system for several years, we're trying to also restore some of the downtown bus stops, which would line up closer to where they were advertised or where they should be. And something over time, just those stops disappeared downtown. It really has limited where we can stop and how convenient we can make things for people. And those stops disappeared with the stop signs. So we're working with the town to restore both, and I think that all those are great ideas.
I have a question
Yes.
for you guys. Okay, nothing to do directly with the buses, but the transit center, where it is right now, is in a bad section of Brattleboro, basically, until it gets cleaned up. They're gonna have this place up for rent or something, because the cops are moving up the street to Putney Road in August. You might ask Peter about, could you rent a space here and park your vehicles right here overnight too? Make this the transportation center instead of downtown where it is right now.
It does.
Excuse me, I'm Jean Boardman. I'm from Marlboro, so I'm not involved specifically in the Brattleboro current system. But I am very interested in coordinating what buses are available for the out-of-town people, which is basically the mover, that does not coordinate with current buses very well. The current bus only goes as far as the Chelsea Royal, and the mover has a very limited delivery. I'm with Molly on the train station. I have guests that come in on the train, and they see the little gazebo that they built on the corner, and there's no maps in there, there's no directions, there's nothing there as to where the transportation center is. And when I went to the bus station, there was nothing outside on the first floor. They have someone there who manages the parking lot upstairs, but they close at 4:30 in the afternoon. The train comes in at 5:30. And there's not even posted on the outside where there is a bulletin board. It should be a glass covered so people can't take the schedules off. But there was nothing there to indicate where people could get buses or possible connections. I have people from Europe who come in to go to look at the colleges at Marlboro and then at Bennington, and the coordination between the buses from the train out to Route 9 is just impossible. So I'm hoping that you will look at some of the things about improving the coordination between. I tried myself to go to Dartmouth Hitchcock last year for a doctor's appointment, and I was told by the people that I called about this that the only one that went to Dartmouth Hitchcock left from Bellows Falls at 6:30 in the morning. And that in the wintertime in December, I had to be from my inn in Marlborough to Bellows Falls by 6:30 in order to get that bus. Now, I don't know how accurate that information was, but it seemed very strange that there wasn't a regular bus service from, at least from Brattleboro, which I could drive that far to get a bus up for a doctor's appointment. And there was no clear place for me to get information about how often the buses ran, so you knew whether you had to spend the whole day up there if you had a 1-hour appointment or not. So just curious to know if there, how much coordination is going on.
I think I had two questions. One was the train and one was other. And speaking from the mover side of things, we've been coming to Brattleboro with a mover bus, I think, for 11 years. And we tried very hard the first 5 or 6 to work with Amtrak and to coordinate service, and it just doesn't work. The train is so late so many times, and our buses here connect with other buses in the valley to go north. And so when that bus is late, it just dominoes through our system. So this is a very familiar story throughout the state, and Tim is aware of this. And correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, but there was at one point some initiative that the state might work on this with another type of plan or another type of transportation service, like almost like guaranteed ride home or demand response, because the train is just terribly unreliable, and we found that we just couldn't wait for it any longer.
Right, were they not allowed to post signs about where the transportation center?
When we first came down here, we put signs everywhere, and they just get taken down. And so I don't know who does, and I'm not saying that something permanent shouldn't be done, but I'm hoping that Molly's committee will really be able to get places that we haven't been able to and get those signs up and have them kept up. So very much so. I'm sorry for the bad information you got about Dartmouth Hitchcock. That was wrong, and we apologize for that.
Is there a bus from Brattleboro, and how often does it go?
There is not a bus from Brattleboro. There is a bus in the morning. Service to Dartmouth Hitchcock starts at exit 6 in Rockingham. It doesn't start in Bellows Falls, it starts in Rockingham. And there's 2 runs in the morning. I think one's at 6 and one's at 6:45 or something. And it's designed for commuters, people going to work there. It's not designed for people with appointments, medical appointments. So the funding for that is strictly on a commuter basis, starting at exit 6. So there's nothing direct here that would be able to take you there. The best thing you could do would be to take Greyhound to White River and hop on a local bus there for service to Dartmouth Hitchcock.
Where is Greyhound coming these days?
The Shell Station.
Canal Street.
The Shell Station.
And/or give us a call to see if you qualify for some of our other transportation programs. We have volunteers that take people to medical appointments for qualified individuals. So there's a number of options. And where's the map and everything else? You can always go to our website and look at the connections we have. If we've listed every connection to every city that we can think of, and if it's not on the website, we don't go there. But still, you should be able to call.
Are you the mover person?
Yes.
Because last summer when I tried to get a European student from New York, from the train to the inn to Bennington for a college interview, I was told that the mover that goes from Brattleboro to Wilmington gets to Wilmington 2 hours after the bus for Bennington, from Wilmington to Bennington, so she'd have a 22-hour layover.
No, we connect.
It's not my experience, actually.
Pardon?
It is not my experience. I go to Bennington a lot, and I take the mover to Wilmington, and the other mover to Bennington is right there.
We do coordinate. They meet.
Yeah,
They do meet, okay, because last summer I was told they didn't, and I had to have someone take her.
We don't have it on the weekends, but we do have it Monday through Friday. You can get to Brattleboro and Bennington twice in the morning and twice in the afternoon, both directions.
Okay, and that's listed on your
the brochure,
website?
it's on the website, yep.
But not during not on the weekends?
Not on the
There's
weekends.
nothing on
Monday through Friday.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Could I please make a comment?
Please.
I didn't really hear the places suggested for the transportation
Right here.
center. Where?
Right here,
Oh, right here.
in this building somewhere. Because
Downstairs.
they're moving up to Putney Road beginning of August. And there's so much drug traffic right now down at the transportation center
far from the center.
and behind
It is.
Dunkley's. They had a death down there 2 months ago. Okay, and people are afraid to stay down there and wait and wait and wait for a bus due to that. And then the cops are down there periodically too. And it makes it hard on the bus drivers too. Some of them aren't comfortable either. But I'm just saying that I don't know what the story is going to be with this building at this point, but I do know it's going to be empty downstairs. The cops are moving up to Putney Road. And it's just a suggestion, and it also gives your buses room to park, too.
I still think that the transportation, in my experience, I still think the transportation center should be downtown.
Down in the center.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
because of the
down in-
convenience of downtown, but, it's another way of looking at the practical end of it.
I mean,
Is
I
it-
know there are problems
There
there,
are.
but I think it should be downtown.
Okay, all right.
I
But
think
mean,
this
it's
is too
just
far
my
away
personal,
from the center of town.
yeah, just a point of view, that's all.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can address your thought with
Yes.
more timely connections.
Excuse me?
Hopefully we can address that thought with more timely connections
Yeah, yeah.
and transfers, and we really need that. Bus A comes in and 1 or 2 minutes later, bus B does, and they both wait and sit, and people go directly from one bus to another in a short period of time and go. So
it's
they're not
easier
waiting
that way,
outside,
yeah.
and they're not prolonged a long period.
It'd be ideal.
Yeah,
Here, yeah.
that is a goal in the planning process.
Short
Yep.
period of time.
Yes,
Oh, one more thing I got to say.
yes.
Why can't the mover pick me up or somebody else standing out on Western Avenue?
Because every time that we pick somebody up, we lose $1.
How do you lose $1?
Because we are fare free and the Brattleboro bus is not. And so our territory in terms of fares starts and ends at Chelsea Royal. And we can drop off, coming in from Wilmington, we can drop off. But if we were to pick up people, we would lose a lot of fare revenue, and the bus would go to West Brattleboro and, at least for certain times of the day, be empty. So this goes back to the days when Brattleboro was a different company, and I know we're all one company now. But fare revenue, I did a study last night. Fare revenue for the Brattleboro routes is annually last year, the fares were just under $50,000. And it's about 8% of the cost of running the city. So again, with resources so stretched, it may sound small or petty, but we're really hesitant to give up on the dollar.
Because they go right by us as we're standing in front of the bus
Right.
stop.
But if we have
And they're
better,
going right to the same place.
we understand, but either that or we could start collecting on the mover bus too and stop there. But the mover also is on a schedule. It has to go and come back, and we've got commitments with the college in Mount Snow and Bennington. So it isn't that if we stopped it just to pick up you, we'd have to pick up everybody else, and before you know that, we miss our connections. So we're really basically an express, and we need to get through town and get in and out of town to make connections elsewhere. It's not designed
I just
as an
often
in-town
wonder
bus.
why it's so silly
Yeah.
to me, you know, it's
Yeah.
going right by.
I don't know what
Yes.
the mover is.
Has the mover considered a stop at the post office in Marlboro, since it goes to the college? To
Yeah.
go on that circle, it's easy to turn around.
We're pretty much going into the college most of the time. There's a little bit in the summertime, in the afternoons we don't go, or we only go on request. But we go right by the post office.
I know, that's what I'm saying, is there any reason they can't post a schedule
Oh,
there?
anybody
so
that wants to stop there, we're happy to let off or pick up. That's anywhere along the route, whether it's the post office or any place, as long as it's safe, we can stop and pick up. As
Right,
can
but you-
current bus.
But you can't put a regular stop at the post office, so that.
We could, I don't know if there's any demand for it, or, we could, but, yeah, we would stop there for anybody that asks or was standing there, whether there's a sign there or not.
Right, so that all they would need to do is to check the college schedule
Yes.
in order to be out there and wave them down, and then would they pull in so they can turn?
Yep. It's called flag service, and I think it's a lot more prevalent in more rural areas like Wilmington than it is in Brattleboro, but there's people all the way up and down Route 9 and Route 100 that wave us down constantly, so it might become in the culture. But I think some of the things that Rebecca has started to do that we need to do, it sounds like, is more travel training. We need to teach groups of people how to read the schedule, how to flag down the bus, and where to anticipate it, what to do, and the different quirks of the system.
I know
we could do so much better at that.
People in Marlboro would be able to park at the post office for the couple of hours and take the bus down, but they're very hesitant to try to wave it down on Route 9 because there's no place.
Right.
It's not safe today.
We have a lot of people that park at the school now regularly that we pick up there as a informal park and ride for Marlboro residents. That seems to be a
At the college, you mean, or at the elementary school?
At the elementary school.
And you pull in and stop at the elementary school?
Yes, we do. Especially if we stop there
the
during the school year for the
right.
kids, and then during the rest of the year, if anybody's in there or waving down, we're looking in that spot to pull in and pick them up. Okay.
I'm Gary from Brattleboro, and a lot of things have been covered I was going to ask questions about and make comments on. I too would like to praise the drivers in the Brattleboro system. Very courteous, helpful, and good sense of humor too, which has been pointed out. One of the things though that concerns me is in trying to get between lines, and when I've ridden the bus in Brattleboro, are transfers, the actual physical transfer. And the times that I've asked for them, looking for a scrap of paper to put it on. I don't know if there's any official form or ticket or anything that's available. Maybe I just haven't seen it, but I think that might make things a little easier for transferring between lines. Also, with the elimination of the white line over to Hinsdale, I'd be very curious to see how that schedule develops and how that integrates into the various parts of the system.
Right, we're not eliminating any service to Hinsdale, and when I mentioned the elimination of the white line, that's as of a concept only. Those hours, those stops, and everything else will be regrouped into either the red or the blue. So we're eliminating the concept of the white line, but we're still committed to going into Hinsdale. They fund us, and the state funds us for that route. So we're not proposing any cuts to Hinsdale and not going there.
It's consolidation into either one of the other.
Into one of the red or blue lines, right?
Lines.
Yeah. So sorry if if we confused you, but we're just trying to. That's part of the simplification process.
Right. I'm glad you also brought up flag stops, because that's an option a lot of people have. I don't think are really aware that they can flag a bus down to stop, not necessarily add particular signage area that indicates the particular stops on the schedule. One of the things that I've been concerned about over a few years in talking with people is how do I get to an appointment in Hanover? Or how can I visit a patient in Hanover? So I see that there's some questions about the Fellows Falls Putney route, which would be the interconnector, I presume, from Brattleboro up through on the current route. A number of times people have said, well, I've got to get up there, but I have no way to get there. They're not a veteran. They can't take advantage of the DAVs or whatever agency has service for hospital patients for appointments. So I hope that some more work can be done. Even though you mentioned that you can make a call and try to get some direct assistance to somebody, still, I think there's a big question in people's minds about getting up to Hanover, either as a patient or a visitor, to Hanover, to Lebanon, to Dartmouth Hitchcock, or to the VA. So I just want to bring that up.
Again, the medical trips whether they're going to Hanover or Burlington or Boston, wherever they are, we have programs for those. And I applaud the riders in the room for thinking, I need to take a fixed route there. In this state, for our system, the system's not designed for that. The system is designed to help the elderly, the disabled, and clients of Medicaid. And that's the phone call to Rebecca's office, and that gets you in a car or a van to Hanover when you need to, or to DHMC when you need to. So we need to encourage you to call for that, because there are programs and funding specifically for that would address that. The system is not built to go from here to Hanover from Brattleboro. At least it's more of what it is, and that is getting people around locally.
No, I appreciate that. This is not my own personal views, but people I'm familiar with in the community that express those concerns, that to get through there, so, and to make it a little bit more convenient. And it's also for those folks who are independent and so don't want to reach out necessarily for assistance and help. And Rebecca's apparently working along those areas to bring those services, I guess, more to the front so people understand that. So I appreciate your efforts in stepping back and reviewing this whole process. And as far as the service to Keene and Greenfield, that's a real challenge in this area, because the Greyhound service is relatively limited, with one bus in, one bus out. And it's not an easy thing to get to for some people. If someone wanted to come to Brattleboro from New York City, I believe it's 5:30 in the morning from Port Authority. I don't necessarily want to be in Port Authority at 5:30 in the morning in New York City. But those kinds of situations that develop, and then people arriving in town, now what do I do? The railroad station is an example right there, which I hope can be worked out.
And it isn't that we're just totally discounting Keene. That's a goal, but it's just not realistic in the short term for funding. It requires a major funding commitment from the Agency of Transportation and the Federal Transit Administration, and those funds just historically are not available. And I mentioned the grant application we have going up the valley to East Jamaica. That's been sitting for a year or two now, Tim. Mm-hmm. And there's just nothing in the cards that tells us, unless you know something we don't, that there's going to be more funding for great routes like going to Keene.
Well, thank you once again for giving us an opportunity to speak out on it. And we'll watch further developments.
Thank you for your
stay
input.
tuned.
Thank you very much.
I've experienced going up on a medical need to Hanover because I don't have a car anymore. And I talked, I think it was you, Rebecca, that I talked to. You have to have a doctor's written permission, and then she gets in touch with the doctor's office to verify, and then we go from there. So it's available to get to Dartmouth for medical needs. Okay, just to simplify it to you. That you've got to get a medical doctor's approval, and then she calls him or her, okay? And they'll pick you right up at the house and bring you right back. Okay? All right.
Very good.
I have a concern about, and it may simply be because I just haven't been here long enough, but coming off of Western Ave, it seems to me that it's more difficult. I know the White Line goes up Putney Road, but it seems difficult to connect North Brattleboro with Central and West Brattleboro. And I guess it's because you have to do a transfer in order to, if you were coming from somewhere on Western Ave, say the Creamery Bridge, and you wanted to get to Hannaford's or the Rite Aid over there, it's a rather arduous, difficult process on the bus. I think and it may just be because I can't understand the schedule well enough when I look at it. But it's not it's not easy. It's not easy to get from Western Ave over to Putney Road, that far up Putney Road. That seems to be quite difficult. And maybe I'm the only person, but I doubt it, that needs to do that from time to time, to make a trip over there for shopping.
You take it from Western Avenue down to the transportation center. At the and you tell the bus driver you're going up to Hannaford's.
So
when you get to transportation center, he'll give you a transportation Hoosigener, and you wait for Hannaford bus.
Yeah, it's a transfer. It's just a more arduous process.
Okay.
To get from west to north is really a difficult process, and I don't know if it's possible to, to make that a little better or not. I notice you have one stop on the red line for Hannaford's, and that's it. That's all. That's all there is that I can see.
Yeah, you go there.
There's only one.
You go down there.
One a day.
Right. So it's a different hours. You go over here to the white line. So you go down to transportation at
That's
certain
what's
time,
been difficult.
and you come over here to the white line to see what time
use the
it comes
schedule.
in.
And
That's
you won't have to use that
I had a hard
schedule in a
time
couple of
finding.
months. We're gonna
It's
have
been-
brand new schedules.
It's been difficult.
It was difficult in the beginning for me.
Oh,
It was.
I still find it
And it's
difficult.
because I haven't
Because
been
of the
here
driver's
that long, I haven't lived here that long, so I'm still figuring. And I also don't always understand, I know you're making a new schedule, and I very much look forward to it. But somehow, I don't know if there's some way of simplifying what, I don't, because I'm not from here, I don't always understand. I don't know what CCV is. I don't know what MH means. I mean, I just don't know a lot of these places. What I'm wondering is if there's any way to include something of a map of the different areas that would help somebody who's wasn't born here. What are these places? Where are they? What are they? What service do they offer? I mean, the obvious things are the stores. But, there are, I see many different places on here, and I have no idea what they are. I don't know what Westgate is.
There could be a last page in the booklet with an explanation of the
Yeah.
abbreviation.
Like, what do all these abbreviations
Yeah.
mean?
Yes.
So what does CCV mean?
Yes,
What does
what does
BMH
that
mean?
mean? Yeah.
I mean, it would just make
Yeah,
people
would
would
make it much
understand
easier.
and what
what it is.
BMH is.
And then there's a little thing at the bottom that says R, stop here on request. I see one R on the red line page, and it's at MH Detman, and, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what it means or how it would work.
Can I say something?
It just seems to be, it's a very mysterious system that you have right now.
Kind of like we don't want anyone to ride it.
Let's confuse everyone, so no one rides.
The bus drivers are so helpful because you get on and you're asking them and they tell you, this is here and that's there, and if it wasn't for the bus drivers, I would have despaired. I would have had to move back to Massachusetts, and I don't want to. I don't want to move back to Massachusetts.
I live in Brattleboro.
I want to live in Brattleboro.
Does anybody have anything else?
Just one more thing. Are you
Sure.
guys, I know you can buy insert cards, okay? Are you guys ever gonna go to a plastic card system?
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
like
So you
everybody.
reload it,
like
reloadable card.
everybody else? Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Yes.
That way it's
We
just
have
easier.
one order.
Okay, it's just easier online for everybody too, just boom, like I already got a card comes in, we pick it up.
I don't know if we're capable online loading up your card yet.
Yeah, it won't be done on a bus.
But you can still do it right on the bus.
Street is a lovely place.
Yeah.
The area by the park across from the courthouse is a lovely area. It's not so much a problem as it is a puzzle, as you wonder why it happens.
Okay.
Why are we here for this long wait? I'm never in a hurry, so I don't mind. I really don't mind. I'm retired. I'm not in a hurry to get from one place to another, but it's just sort of a puzzle as to what, and it must have to do with your need and your schedule to have area. Whereas in other places, like if I'm in the little Pliny Park, because it's a place to sit down and there's shade, and I'm waiting for the bus to come to take me up Western Avenue, I need to be able to get out and get up to what is the bus stop, even though it isn't. There's no way to know it's the bus stop, because the schedule says High and Main, and that's High and Main, Pliny Park. However, if they're on a schedule and they turn the corner, and if you're not waiting right outside there, they don't realize, although Bob does, I mean, he recognizes me because I always wear hats, and I'm there, so he knows that I'm probably waiting for the bus, and that's part of the real service that your bus drivers provide, is that they know who rides, and they'll wait a few minutes, but they have to keep to their schedule. So it's awkward not to have, I guess, a place. I mean, I didn't know until this week, until a few days ago, that you have to be outside the fence. You can't be in the park. Because if they're trying to get someplace else and they're running a little late, they're going to have to move right along. Yet when they get to the Brattleboro retreat, they can stay there for quite a while. So these are,
We'll work on those.
just little funny, strange discrepancies that a new writer is trying to understand. That's all.
All right, well, we'll adjourn, and again, thank you very much for coming, and we'll be in touch again for another round.